UFC 304 is in the books. Belal, remember the name, Muhammad, getting the job done against Leon Edwards. We saw Tom Aspinall with a quick first round finish. 1 minute is all it took for him. And we saw Paddy Pimblett absolutely demolish Bobby Green. It was a crazy night from top to bottom. And we got you covered right here on Fight Bananas. And we got the best co host in the game, Mr. Blake Schneiders. My man, what's going on?
What's going on, Jonathan Ramalakan? How you doing, brother? Fantastic. This was a great fight to watch. I'm glad it's just you and I solo dolo in it. I said solo dolo duo in it tonight, just like the good old days. So, no, man, I'm great. You're looking beautiful as always. The fights tonight, UFC 304 was fantastic, coming out of Manchester, England. But no, it was good. There was a lot of really good fights. I think there was a lot of questions in the air for this fight for a lot of fighters that we got answers to. I don't think there was any questions that we came into this fight with without getting answers. So that was awesome to see.
Yeah, everything left with a definitive point, I think, except maybe Manel Kape versus Muhammad Makayev, which, I mean, if you need that much security in the ring to separate you guys, and in the first round, you only throw 5 strikes, 10 strikes combined, what are we really doing? What was that
Yeah.
all about? Yeah, I just don't really get that one. I definitely want to see your guys' thoughts in the comments. We appreciate you guys joining us. We always enjoyed when you guys comment. Join the show, make it more fun. We love when you guys get that ball rolling. But excellent main event, absolutely dominating main event from Bahal Muhammad. And I didn't expect what I saw tonight from Bahal because I knew Belal had the grappling advantage, but you saw what Leon Edwards did against Colby Covington. You saw what Leon Edwards did against Kamaru Usman. And with those, defending wrestling with his last 2 times, like, you always see what it's most recently. You came in thinking he can defend a few of these takedowns from Belal Muhammad, but man, Belal came in like a man on an absolute mission, and that's what he did. He came out, he spiked Leon Edwards on his head, he boxed him and hit him with some nice uppercuts, and Leon really had no answer. Leon was really there just, trying to find a rhythm, but he could not get a rhythm going against Belal Muhammad. The pressure was too much. He was able to get beautiful takedowns over and over again, get the back repeatedly. Leon had a few answers here and there. He was able to reverse position a few times at the end of a couple of rounds, including the fifth where he got that cut. But for at the end of the night, it was an absolute dominating win, in my opinion, for Belal Muhammad. It was either 3-2 or 4-1 Belal, in my opinion. I could see where people gave Leon that fifth round just because of the cut, but he did have his back for almost 3.5 minutes and was, hitting him with, those little shots there in between, not just holding, doing nothing, trying to attempt to get the choke. Give credit to Leon for defending that choke as well. But Belal, for literally most of the main event, absolutely dominated, absolutely ragdolled Leon Edwards. And because of that, we will all remember the name in the history books because of Belal Muhammad. Blake Schneiders, take it away.
Yeah, man. I think John, you hit almost every single nail on the head that I would have mentioned. I will start out with this. I'm not normally a Belal Muhammad super fan. Uh, the absolute hell out of his game, but as far as kind of an interesting watch, I tend not to watch him that much. I mean, I do watch him, but I don't enjoy it that much because it's by the amount of unanimous decisions he's had in his life. He's not known as a finisher. He's not known as a submission artist. He's just known as a great grappler. But god dang, man, the way he came into today's fight changed the entire way that I now view his game because he looked absolutely on point. I do like Leon Edwards. He's a very versatile striker. There's a reason why he's the ultimate champion in the welterweight division, or formerly known as welterweight division champion. But it just looked like Belal had an answer to almost everything Leon had today. And the thing that I really liked from Belal today was that it was his stand-up striking. We all knew he could grapple. We all knew he could wrestle. It was the jab. I mean, his jab looked really quick today, and that was something I have never seen him do quite like he did tonight over in Manchester. So tonight was freaking awesome. Obviously, a little butt hurt. I did lose a little bit of money. I had Leon Edwards, not Belal Muhammad, but that's okay because what I saw was a king dethroned, a guy who hasn't lost in 9 years since 2015 in Leon Edwards get bested by the Palestinian, the Chicago native, Belal Muhammad, who had so much riding on his shoulders. And I'm sure everything going on in America right now, everything going on in his home state of Palestine, I'm sure this meant the absolute world to him to be out there, to be able to go out there and put on this type of a show. So, all hats off, applause all around to Belal Muhammad. He put on an absolute technical performance of a fight, and really just, he really changed my opinion of how I view him as a fighter.
And it's hard not to change your opinion with what you saw tonight. You saw in a more evolved version of Belal. And I want to give a shout out to Philip Hyatt and our boy Sean Sterling, who was always in the comments
What's up,
as well.
boys?
But Belal saying, or Philip saying, Belal ain't no joke. He proved and deserved the belt. And he absolutely did. I think what you said, that jab was money, right? That was really the one that was deterring Leon Edwards from being able to open up more. Before Leon can get those, beautiful kicks around, that jab down the middle was good. He even popped a couple of uppercuts here and there, and he was able to perfectly mix, because you have guys that are excellent grapplers, but he was so perfectly able to mix up the grappling. He added the striking. He just added a jab, really, right? He had other tools that he was landing as well, but I think the most effective one that we saw tonight was the jab. And
Well,
you know,
and you know why I think it was so effective, John? Sorry, not to step
no,
on
go
you.
ahead.
Do you know why I think it was so effective? Was he didn't use the jab as the end all be all. What he used the jab was to dictate control of the octagon. One thing that Belal did that was mighty, the power hammer, the Thor's hammer of tonight, was he used that jab to walk Leon down and continuously get his back against the cage. That's what he did with it. He wasn't using it as, even though it was, he didn't try to use it as the most damaging shot. Like some guys just have an excellent jab that'll beat you up and turn you into a meat grinder at the end of the match. Not here. Belal used that to manage distance the entire match. And what he did fantastically was put Leon up against the cage with that jab. But the other thing was, it was landing almost every time. It seemed like it was landing. So inconsequentially, it ended up being kind of a meat grinder to Leon. Even though he didn't wear it as much on his face, he was feeling it for sure.
For sure. Like you said, that the jab was just really what was able to separate or just push that pressure on and push him up against the fence, right? That was really what was able to allow him to do that. But as far as like his performance, I think that it just shows to like the evolution. He did, the last time out, he didn't look as good, right? And I think that
Yeah.
played a big factor. And that was why I picked Leon Edwards as well. Right. Like in my head, I thought Leon was, going to win. I texted a couple of my friends like, hey, I would prefer if Belal would win, but, I think Leon gets it done just because I think he was more sharp. But Belal was just able to put it all together. And we have to talk about that pressure and the cardio, because when Leon Edwards was looking tired, Belal was not at all. And, definitely give credit to him. Someone, Haynes saying the welterweight division is Basura, essentially. Colby, come make them forget the name. I don't think Colby is going to fight for a championship anytime soon.
No.
His last win was against Jorge Masvidal. Before that, I think Tyron Woodley. I don't think Colby Covington deserves a championship fight anytime soon. There is a couple names that will get around. There's guys like what's his name? Shavkat Rakhmonov is someone that's coming up at 170. There's a few new names out there as well. But you said something, Blake, as well, as far as having a lot of weight on his shoulders. If you saw the embedded or the countdown, he actually took in like a 2-year-old Palestinian kid that actually had his house bombed. His leg was destroyed and had to have surgery. And he took him and his father in, from out of the country, brought them into the United States, essentially changing their life. And whether you like Belal Muhammad, the fighter, you have to show respect for him as a human being for doing things like that. Taking someone out of, essentially where half their family dies and they're the two remaining people, and they're able to come here and change their life. You have to give a lot of credit for that, because there was a lot of pressure too, I'm sure, riding with that, right? You have essentially a whole, like you said, with what's going on in the world and what's going on in Palestine, there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders to be able to get the win. And he didn't just win, he dominated. So I think that was just showing how that's going to, just be a factor with that. And, with the, as far as like the next step for Belal Muhammad, right? Because there is a couple options there. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is my favorite, at this point. I think to get that shot, he's just undefeated. He's really good. as well. Ian Gary, of course, rising up, but the other names are really the ones that are a little bit over the hedge, right? You got Usman still ranked, in that area, but I don't think he's fighting there ever again. Of course, Colby, Gilbert Burns, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Those are the guys that are over the hedge. So I'm curious to see what you think. Do you think a guy like Shavkat Rakhmonov, do you want to see a rematch? Which I don't think. I think it's really easy, dominated and done after tonight. But what do you think is next for Belal? Who do you think he sees next?
The welterweight division is one of the most tumultuous and most competitive divisions in all of MMA. I think there's a lot of different ways you could go with this. I think the first and foremost would be Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think he's obviously earned it, and he's number 3. Belal came from number 2. You might as well just go ahead and give the guy below him the shot above. I don't think we're going to see a rematch versus him and Leon. Leon said he wants to fight one more time before the end of the year, but I don't think if you're Dana, it's fair to give Belal a rematch against Leon when you really kind of came out here and won 4 rounds to 1. That's not worthy of a championship rematch. So I also like what Sean says because I
Mm-hmm.
love Jack Della Maddalena's game. I think he's very good. I think he always fights to the end, and he just brings kind of a grit to the game. Also, you got Ian Machado Gary, like you mentioned. Guys that he has not fought yet, but that would be, he has beaten Sean Brady. Colby Covington is not really in the talks right now. Kamaru Usman, I don't know if anybody really knows what's up with Kamaru Usman right now, but to me, he's not in contention for title right now. Yeah, he might be the number 1 contender, but I just don't see his name being – I don't think he's earned it in the last 2 years that I'd be willing to just go ahead and give it to him. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov's name has been on the rise for so long right now. And it's been so compelling each fight that he's been in. I think he's probably the number 1 guy. But I also would love to see a Jack Della Maddalena or an Ian Machado Gary. I think Ian's a tad premature, so I like the other 2.
Yeah, definitely like that. And Sean Sterling saying he's injured now. And like you said, I do believe that arm. I saw that. I'm not sure if he broke that in the Burns fight or before that or fought through it. But he knocked out Gilbert Burns. Phillips Hyde saying Burns. It's hard for me to say Burns because Belal beat Burns already.
Exactly.
Just as that one.
Yeah.
You could see Kamaru Usman getting the match. I don't know if he comes back down to 170. Also, those knees are just not getting any younger,
Yeah.
for Usman. So I don't know how much longer you can see that situation there. But it's also just fun to have new blood as the champion, right? It makes for
Yeah.
a different interest, and we'll get into Paddy Pimblett. We'll get out to that. Don't worry, we'll keep this in order though. But Tommy Aspinall, baby, we got to
You're going
remember the
faster
other
than we
guy
are,
who's
Philip.
the interim champion from out there where they're represented in England, and man, he got it done, right? He was able to get it done real quick against Curtis Blades. It was essentially a 1-minute fight. And Tom Aspinall, he came out. Curtis Blades actually landed a few good strikes in a couple of those exchanges, which I was surprised. He came out himself with a nice jab. But, I mean, Tommy Aspinall got him down. I think it was a jab. We texted. It was a jab that sat him down. The right hand missed, actually, but the jab sat him down. Curtis went, like turtle shell to go, get up. Tom lit him with some good shots. And might be, some people are saying early stoppage, but like I said to you a little bit earlier, when you are on your stomach, flattened out, taking that many shots to the head from a heavyweight, it's the referee's job to stop that fight. So I think well done, Tom Aspinall. And hey, I don't know if we see John Jones, but if it's not, and that becomes the undisputed after John Jones retires the next fight, I'm down to see that. I'm down as Tom Aspinall as a potential long reigning heavyweight champ because I think with the skills he has, he could be a guy that stamps his imprint in the heavyweight division for a long time and also kind of brings it back to life with some activity. We've seen inactivity with so many heavyweight, DC Stipe taking 3 years for their trilogy, John Jones taking forever to actually fight. That's how you actually had to have this fight, right? So, we had Tom Aspinall getting the job done. Thoughts on his performance tonight?
I thought Tom Aspinall did exactly what Tom Aspinall does, man. I mean, the guy is one of the most talented heavyweights I've ever seen. He comes in, obviously, after his injury. He comes in. This is what he was born to do. This is what he was meant to do. He's come in, had some really great fights. He's one of the best finishers in the heavyweight division, just with the amount of skill set that he has. I'm not going to joke tonight about him looking like a young Frank Mir anymore. Tom Aspinall has earned the respect, earned all of the praise that he should be getting, and to do it in his home country was phenomenal. I thought it was interesting because, like you said, Blades did come out with a great jab right off the front. He did. He looked really crisp in that, and it popped Aspinall one or two times. But Aspinall was able to land a jab of his own. And you're right, that right hand did miss on that right cross. It did not connect. I think what happened was he caught Curtis in an awkward position and ended up. I don't know if he tripped or if it was a true knockdown. To me, it looked like his feet got a little tangled,
Like a
but
stumble almost
yeah,
versus like a
he
knockdown.
got caught a little off guard in an awkward position. He stumbled down, but when he turtled onto his back or onto his belly, I mean, Tom was raining down bombs. And my gut instinct, because I like to watch these guys who are absolute gladiators, who put their life on the line, who try to defend it, who try to train as long as they can to fight in this competition. I love it when a fight goes a little bit longer. I always want to see a little bit more. But when you think about it from a referee's perspective, he not only has just gotten knocked down, and again, refereeing has to be one of the hardest jobs in the world, especially in the fight game. I don't care what game you're playing, but especially in the fight game, it's got to be one of the hardest. He was raining down left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And he took 9, 10 consecutive unanswered shots, and he wasn't getting up to his belly. He wasn't getting up to his knees. He wasn't getting up into an all fours position. So I don't know how you wouldn't stop that. I think as a fan, we all wanted to see it go longer. As a referee and as a true commentator of the sport, I think it was a perfect call. I mean, Tom got him. He caught him. Does it suck to watch as a fan? Not really, but it's unfortunate because you wanted to see a battle. But Tom came out and did exactly what he needed to do, and he looked really crisp doing it. And I don't see anybody in the heavyweight division right now that is really, I mean, outside of John Jones, of course. John Jones is the greatest fighter to ever step foot inside the octagon, and nobody's going to ever convince me otherwise. But right now, Tom Aspinall is the biggest threat to his game that we have. I would love to see that next matchup.
And I would have loved to seen prime John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, right? That would
Yes.
have been even better to see. But obviously, prime John Jones was a little bit lighter, right? So it's also a little bit of a different game there at 205 for him because he definitely has filled out and grown into his grown man body, right? We've seen young John Jones, the youngest champion in UFC history, with a leaner frame, but he's grown into what he has now. But like you said, man, Tom Aspinall got the job done, and he asked Curtis Blades to actually give him 5 rounds because he hasn't been to that 5 rounds yet. And
Yeah.
Curtis Blades couldn't do that, right? Another guy that couldn't do that. I thought Sergey would have given him more trouble too. Another guy that didn't. But like you said, just going down the list, like, Alexander Volkov or, Cyril Gahn, just don't really see any of these guys really give him a trouble. I really would like to see him versus John Jones. How do you think that matchup goes if it happens? I'll let you kind of answer that.
I think it's hard, man. Time is the ultimate winner of everything, and John Jones is getting up there, but I cannot bring myself to bet against John Jones. I mean, we saw the absolute demolition of what he did to a guy like Cyril Gahn. We all thought it was going to be a very incredible fight. Cyril Gahn, we think, kind of fights like a deer on his feet. He's very agile, very mobile for such a big guy. And what he did in that octagon against him was demolishing. I mean, it was almost demoralizing to Cyril Gahn's psyche. Now, what would it be versus Tom Aspinall? They both have great games, but here's the deal. Again, John Jones is a junior college All-American wrestler. Okay, him and Colby Covington went to the same school, Iowa Western, up in Iowa. They are both junior college champions in wrestling. Oh, also John Jones is one of the greatest strikers of all time. Oh, also John Jones is getting to walk around at 240, 250, 260 now instead of being 225 and 215. Or 215, sorry, for light heavyweight. But I just don't know, man. Like, as much as I love Tom Aspinall, it's so hard to bet against a guy like John Jones. But if there's somebody who's going to do it, if there's somebody who's going to have the strength, the knockout power, the agility, the light on their feet, to be able to maybe match him in the ground game, maybe not even match him, but at least give him enough resistance to where it's going to give John Jones a problem, I think Tom is the perfect matchup for him.
And it would be so exciting because he's so well-rounded himself, right? He's a guy that
Yes.
puts somebody out. But on top of that, he comes from a background of jiu-jitsu that we really haven't got to see yet, right?
Exactly.
And Haynes Environmental, which would be fun, right? Saying Pereira versus Aspinall it will happen. Take note. We know Johns won't take that fight next best options, Alex, that would be a very fun one. I would be excited to see that. I think Aspinall was able to take him down a lot easier than the guys at light heavyweight, right? Don't get me wrong, the power is going to translate. We know Alex Ferreira can fight at heavyweight. He did it in Glory Kickboxing. But I think when it comes to the takedown defense, someone that is big, 6'4", Tom Aspinall, he doesn't look as big as he actually is, but he's a
Yes,
big dude,
he's
right?
huge.
So he goes out there and he's, actually towering over guys like Sergey, towering guys like, Curtis Blades. He's out there. He's a lot bigger of a guy to defend against you when it comes to that. And Sean Sterling saying, who's the heavyweight, or, they started talking about the heavyweight GOAT during the watch along. Grant saying Prime Kane, which is hard to disagree with. There's a couple different options there. It's hard because there's so much, with heavyweight, there's so many different people inside and outside the UFC,
Yeah,
right? So I think that's what makes that one really harder as well. And Haynes with another good point. It's a lot of a risk for him to do that. I think with John Jones, if he beats, and in my opinion, when he beats Stipe Miocic, I think he calls it a career after that one because he can potentially claim his, way in a way against like Stipe as potentially the greatest heavyweight of all time as well. I think that's really his goal at this point, is to get that claim as well as not just the greatest of all time, but also the greatest of the heaviest division, which I don't think he will get that claim even with beating Stipe, but it would be exciting to see. But we had Paddy the Baddy
yeah.
in this fight, which was wow. He absolutely shocked me. He shut me up, right? I didn't know. I thought it would have been a lot more of a war. I didn't expect Bobby Green or King Green to shoot the takedown and go for that, but Paddy felt that takedown coming, was able to pull in a guillotine, switch it to a triangle, put him to sleep, and hey, broke his arm as well. And insert Buzz Lightyear,
Oh,
your meme with, his arm broken off to the side. I saw someone post that on Twitter, which was hilarious. But man, Paddy the Baddy looking legit. He's calling for Hanato Moicano, which in my opinion is one of the easier matchups at 155, right? I think that there's at the top of 155, it's an absolute bloodbath, and it's going to be tough for him to break through that top ceiling. But what I like to see is his growth between every fight, right? He's continuing to getting better and better. I mean, the fight that he fought tonight versus the fight he had against, Jared Gordon, two different guys as well. You talk about the growth of Belal Muhammad, another guy, Paddy Pimblett, showing his growth as well. Thoughts on his performance tonight, absolutely putting King Green to sleep.
what can I say? Patty's an absolute fucking baddie, brother. I mean, he is a baddie. He is a fan favorite. I obviously, I say I expected him to win, but I thought this was the most dangerous matchup he's ever been put up against. Because Bobby motherfucking Green, of all people, is the guy that is. I mean, even in his age today, I mean, he's been fighting. What he's at 40 fights? Is he at 50 fights? He's at 50 fights, isn't
No,
he?
I think he's in the 40s. I don't think
He's
he's
in
at
the
the
40s.
50s.
I thought tonight they said that he eclipsed 50, but I could be wrong.
I'll have to check that out for you.
Yeah. Anyway, the guy, even as long as he's been in the UFC, he's looked a lot better in his last few fights than he has in a long time. So he seems to be getting better with age. And I did not expect a first round finish from Paddy Pimblett. I thought this was going to be an absolute dog fight, which I was really hoping for because I thought it would be a great test for Paddy. But in the end, when you really look at it, I mean, he dismantled Bobby Green, and his jujitsu, bro, his jits is
Very.
legit. It is legit. I always thought he was just well rounded, but not an expert in anything. But the way that he was able to move in one, I believe if I'm remembering correctly, he had him in a quick guillotine, but got rid of it. Then no, I'm sorry. He had him in the arm triangle. Then he switched over to the arm bar or the head triangle. Yeah, head and
Yeah, the
arm
arm
triangle.
bar, he was already out by the time he went to switch for it.
Yeah. Okay. So he had him in the triangle. Then he switched over to the arm bar. I did not realize he had broken his arm.
Yeah,
I
it looked like it.
I was at work earlier. I was trying to do two things at once. I didn't realize he had broken his arm, so that was news to me. But no, the way that he was flawlessly executing that, and then not only to submit Bobby Green, but to make Bobby Green pass out like he did in that fashion in his home country, man, if he's not on top of the world right now, I don't know what would be the top of the world for this man, but he is each fight he just looks leaps and bounds better than he did before. Every time you think that there was an error in the last fight, even if he got away with a win, oh, I think somebody might capitalize on that next fight. No, he seems to shore it up and he seems to patch it. He's got Flex Seal, putting
Mhm.
Flex Seal on that and making it work for the next round because he's like, hey, and I don't know how much he studies tape. I don't know how much he goes back and watches his last fights, but whoever his coaches are, as far as who's if it's him, if it's his coaches helping him patch up previous things, he is doing it spectacularly. So man, all hats off to him. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting the bonus for tonight's show, which is a little preview for what my answer is going to be for later. But yeah, man, I mean, if you just look at the last two guys that he's beaten, Bobby Green and Tony Ferguson, are those two names that you would think Paddy Pimblett would ever beat? No, they're not.
I mean, I thought he was going to beat Tony pretty easily.
Well, I'm talking about name value, not like obviously. I think everybody agrees Tony Ferguson needs to retire. He's done. He's washed. He's a legend. He will go into the UFC Hall of Fame. He needs to be done. But I just think when you're Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett, you never think, oh, he's gonna knock Tony Ferguson out. You know what I mean? Like, and he did. He's staunch. I mean, he's staunch Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, he destroyed
So
him.
it's the way he did it and the way he beat Bobby Green, like two back to back, like incredible finishes for Paddy Pimblett, who some people think he's a finisher. Some people think he's just a decent fighter. Some people think he's a goofball. Like the guy is so polarizing, but yet he's proving us wrong time and time again.
Yeah, like you said, time and time again, I do think he's a guy that can beat Moicano as well. You know, I think he gets the job done against that one. I think he's a pretty big welterweight as well. Like this is a guy that's
Yeah,
pretty size. Like he's a pretty hefty dude when he goes
he's
into
taller than you think, and he's heavier than
yeah.
you think.
He's got some size to him. So I'm excited to see, saying, be what Connor should have been. It's hard to say something like what Connor should have been when he's the biggest superstar in the history of the UFC. Right. Granted all the faults, granted what he's done as of recently. I'm not the biggest Connor fanboy. I don't think, as of lately he's done anything special. But when it comes to like Pete Conor McGregor and what he did for the sport at the time,
Yeah,
it's hard to say Paddy's on that level just yet, right? Don't get me wrong. There is a hype train behind Paddy. Most of it's in England, right? If we're being honest, most of it's in that Europe area. I think it's like kind of 50-50, with a lot of other areas as well, because, you still, with him, it's like you still really maybe haven't seen the Connor side just yet, where he kind of like lashes out at a press conference. Like you'll see some things, right? But it doesn't feel like it's just as original yet, right? For me, you know,
I think the Conor McGregor aspect only I truly believe it only comes from the fact that they hail from the similar region. And
yeah.
I truly believe that's it because they're not actually the same when you look at them side by side. Their come up isn't the same. The
Their
way
fighting style is very different.
fighting
Connor
styles are
started at
completely different.
145 as well, right? I think it's
Yeah.
tough to just compare them. Like I would say, just put Paddy Pimblett on his own kind of trajectory, right? Let's see what this
Yeah.
guy becomes, because he could really become somebody that the UFC could like have a really good name value, bring in a lot of fans. Like this is a guy that can continue to be that. So I don't like comparing stars,
Yeah.
because I think it's always just you're always gonna end up with one person's better than the other in that
Well,
argument,
and
right?
in one aspect, Connor is the greatest shit talker of all time. Like one of the greatest shit talkers of all time. Patty is really good, but he's way more of a fan favorite than he is actually at talking shit. And it's the way he tries to talk shit. It's different. It's a little bit more I don't care. Connor made it personal with almost everybody because Connor
Right.
was really good at doing his research. That dude did more research on his opponents to play psychological mind games than anybody I've ever seen. Patty doesn't really do that. Patty's just like, I don't fucking care. I'm a fucking scouser. I don't care. Like he's just out here living his best life, kind of a party to the fans, not like, hey, might do a little toot toot on a boat after I sell a whiskey. You know what I mean? Like it's a little different. So I don't like comparing the two. They're very different.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to say he deserves a belt fight right now. I mean, he
No.
just beat someone at the bottom of the rankings, right? Him versus Islam Makhachev would be an absolute mauling if we're just being honest at this point, right? But he has a path to get there, right? He's doing the right things. Let him take those steps to get to that path, because he's doing all the right things. He's growing between fights. You see him a lot better. Like a lot earlier, he had his head a lot higher up. Like when he first came in and he was eating a lot of shots. Now he's a lot more low when you see him kind of fight into that stance. Let's get to our favorite game. let's get to.
Hold on, real quick. Before you do that, I want to have one more comment on Patty because I have a question for you. Do you think, as fans, with the success and fan love behind a certain fighter, we try to promote them to a title fight quicker than they really deserve it? And does that, when they do get promoted, as we've seen in the past, does that hurt their confidence when they lose? To me, I think Patty's one of those guys, you keep feeding him just the next guy up, just the next guy up. Don't give him a championship yet, because as you've seen, he has grown between each individual fight. He has gotten better and better and better. He's not the best yet, but he's growing his game at such a rapid rate. I wouldn't want to feed him to the Wolves yet. I wouldn't want to feed him to an Islam Makhachev yet, because I want him to continue to get better. And I think as a fan, we have to change our mindset on how we want fighters to develop and what we want to see next, instead of just, oh, this is the next best thing, throw him to the Wolves. But what do you think?
I agree with you. Honestly, I think you need to let these guys build themselves up. What was his name? Edmund Shabazian, right? Was a guy that was coming in, and he, wanted to really take the step up, be the youngest UFC fighting or the UFC champion. And he ran into Derek Brunson, I believe. It was the one that ended up really changing and knocking him down, right? So sometimes you run into a buzzsaw. Like if you throw him against Rafael Fiziev at this point, come on. You know what I mean? If you throw him against even, Charles Oliveira, come on. Like, those are guys that are next level at this point. You have to let him develop, let him continue to grow at that point. So I 100% agree with you on that side of things, but let's get into, he said he's done with raising bonuses after so many decisions. I agree with that, man. Jesus. That's why we're not even really breaking down the rest of the card. Because don't get me wrong, Gregory Rodriguez versus RoboCop or versus, CLD was solid and nothing special happened. Arnold Allen versus Giga, don't get me wrong. Arnold Allen, did his thing against Giga, but again, nothing too special there.
The tree frog.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just get into our favorite game. Let's get into Guess the Bonus. We had 3 tonight, 2 from the main card, 1 from the prelims. I'll let you kick it off. Well, I guess you're going to have to kick it off.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to have to because I'm the only one guessing. You already know the answers. Do I have a base layer what I'm going off?
Yeah, two main card, 1 prelim.
2 main card, 1 prelim. And what are we doing? Fight?
2 or 3 performance bonuses. No fight of the night.
3 performance bonuses. Okay. I'm going to give 1 performance bonus, obviously, to Paddy Pimblett. I think he automatically earns a performance bonus for what he did against Bobby Green. It was flawless. It was beautiful. I almost want to give a performance bonus to Belal Muhammed. It's hard because Tom Aspinall obviously retained his championship in a 1-minute knock TKO versus Curtis Blades. But I think Belal's finish was a little bit more impressive just with the amount of fight that we got to see. So I would have to lean towards Belal. So I'm going to go Paddy Pimblett, Belal. And then as far as the prelims go, let's see. Maybe you give it to Mick Parkin. I mean, is that too early of a prelim, or are we just talking prelims in general?
Prelims, early prelims. And Queasy said he's heading out. He said he won 8KK. Wishing us some good reasons. He said a new legendary fighter born, one-eyed. Don't forget the name. Remember the name, Belal Muhammad. Appreciate you guys. We got Christopher J in the chat as well, as we're about to close out here with our favorite game. So you got, you have 2 guesses. You got 1 more in the prelims.
You said it was 2 and 1, right?
Yeah, 2 and you guessed for 2 in the main card. You got 1 more in the prelims.
I got Mick Parkin on the. He got the first round knockout versus Lucas Bresky. That's what I'm going to go with as far as or Modestas Bahaskas, but I'm going to lean towards Mick Parkin because he got one of the only knockouts of the night.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's what it was. Don't get me wrong. I thought Bukauskas versus Prochnio. If you did not watch that fight, insane. There was a part where it was Bukauskas. He hurt Prochnio, had him up against the fence. Prochnio throws a head kick, hurts Bukauskas again. And it was just like one of those moments where one guy gets hurt, the other guy gets hurt. You know what I mean? So, I just thought it was a crazy moment in that one. Ends up getting the win with the arm triangle, but you went 2 for 3. The other one you should have went with the other pick. It was Tom Aspinall.
Was it
You
Tom?
got
Damn it.
yeah, because I think with performance bonuses, it's usually finishes. You know what I mean? If I had
Yeah,
mentioned
I get it.
but you should have with that. But yeah, no, good tonight. And honestly,
We need to
that
start
was a
keeping
little
track.
lackluster,
We need to start keeping track of our records.
Yeah, with that side of things, I think it started off really well. I mean, you had a really solid first women fight. A split decision, 3 straight finishes to start after that, and then from there it was decision for 7 straight
A
fights.
lot of
And then
decisions.
yeah, so a lot of decisions tonight. It was still, in my opinion, very exciting last 3 fights of the card. Like the fights that I was looking forward to, I was excited. I was excited to see. Oh
Well,
my
let me ask
god.
you this. Let me ask you this, John. Since you didn't get to play the game, what was your favorite fight of the night? What was your
Um,
favorite fight to watch?
To watch, I would say Buskauskas versus Prochnio.
That was your favorite fight. Okay.
That was a very fun fight to watch.
Actually, you're wrong. It was Nathaniel Wood fight versus Daniel
That was a
Pineda.
solid fight as
Sorry.
well.
That was your favorite fight. Sorry, you got it wrong, unfortunately.
I mean, the real answer is Muhammad Makayev versus Manel Kopp. And in that fight, actually, Manel Kopp got pantsed by Muhammad Makayev. I'm not sure if you saw that, but Makayev
I did not.
literally grabbed the pants. We saw a black moon shining in our beautiful faces. And yeah, we actually saw that happen. But it was a crazy moment in that one. But honestly, the night, I think we'll all, when it comes down to it, remember the name Belal Muhammad. Close this up, my man.
Man, 304, I think it definitely delivered as far as good matchups. There was a lot of good matchups. I think there was a lot of pretty good fighting. I don't think any fights were super underwhelming. I think a lot of things happened. Like I said originally in the open, there was a lot of questions that we had. Belal Muhammad, Tom Aspinall, Rodriguez. I mean, Rodriguez was a guy who was actually not favored in the fight, and he ended up winning. I remember watching him when he was still at FAC here in Kansas City, and I remember him walking into the ring, and I'm going, that guy looks like RoboCop. I mean, the guy is absolutely jacked. What I loved seeing from him tonight was the fact that he actually finally used his ground game. He used his world championship Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tonight to his favor. So I think we saw a lot of good things. I mean, I'm not going to say this was one of the greatest cards of the year. I think we got a lot of good answers. Tom Aspinall remains championship for the heavyweight division, which sets up something great for John Jones. We got a great fight from Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad, who dethroned him as the new welterweight championship. So we got a shakeup in the welterweight. Paddy Pimblett proved us wrong that he can and will always step up to the task. Versus Bobby Green. So overall, I'm going to give this about a 7.3. I thought it was a very good fight with a lot of questions answered that I really wanted to see answered. So overall, I thought it was a very very intriguing and very interesting and well worth the watch fight. So
For sure.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I think main card definitely was pretty solid. Cop lost, messed up his toe, and cracked air out on a tough night. That is true. I think that's a great way to honestly end the show. And I think what we saw towards the latter half of the show, if we remember, this show was done in England and it was done on U.S. time. Those guys were fighting at like 4:00 in the morning their time.
The main card was 5:45 in the morning.
Yeah, so that's tough. I'm glad that
fight.
Uncle Dana did it for us, but hey, at least the last 3 fights, like I said, really what we were all looking forward to, in my opinion. There was a couple other fights looking forward to as well. I was hoping for a little more from Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. I thought that would have been a little bit better, a little more striking involved. Don't get me wrong, the striking was sharp, but it was just technical. They didn't really have any moments in that where they swung on it. But
nothing major.
Tom Aspinall and Belal Muhammad leave the night champions. And Blake Schneiders and Jonathan Ramlakan, we are signing out. Make sure you guys, if you're not always, you already followed, I think we hit like 450K the last week or two here on Five Bananas on Facebook, I believe. So make sure you guys are
doing numbers, baby.
Doing numbers. We got videos pretty much every day. They got the fight Dave Van Auken show on Tuesday. You have I think tomorrow you got the Morning Brew with Elle and Maddie. I think they do that on Sundays. I mean, there's a show literally every day. So, I mean, if you're not watching here at Five Bananas, you're not keeping up with all things MMA. So make sure you guys are well-informed fans, like you guys all are. And Tane's saying 13 on the stream. We need to up them numbers. I think a lot of people were tired after today's fight. I think with so many decisions, even Johan hit me up. He was like, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to make it." So definitely with that one. So appreciate everybody that's joined us as well, and we will see you guys after the next fight.